Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one. Working hella hard until I get just what I want, yeah. Rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I won, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one.
Welcome everybody. The title of this live stream is TRT Hacking Nootropics 9-ABPC and legal threats, which we're going to get to. Something quite immature and somewhat ridiculous happened this week, which I'm going to break down for you guys. But a lot has happened this week, man. Wow. First of all, it's spring. It's officially spring. We might have some crappy weather intermittently in the next 2 weeks or so, but it's just part of the process, right? The rain has to continue coming down and, watering the fucking flowers and shit. But then consistent spring, then we're going to be complaining that it's hot out, whatever. So I'm one of those guys that would rather have it be hot than cold. I just think there's not a lot to do in the cold, and that's the big problem. So as we start the live stream, I guess the first thing that I want to bring to your guys' attention as perhaps a warning, moving forward and doing business with this company, or your formation or formulation of your sentiment around this company is a company called Maximus Tribe. So you guys know Maximus Tribe. They are the purporters of the notion that enclomiphene as a testosterone raising agent is the better strategy than injections, which we all know not to be true. It's a company that is pushing these days an oral TRT option, which may or may not be effective. I've read some literature on the oral TRT part, which is just actual testosterone that you take in a tablet that has a pretty short half-life. Really no qualms with that. But on a podcast recently with Vigorous Steve, the one we just did last week, him and I discussed clinics like theirs and companies like theirs. And the truth is, if you're giving people, especially, let's say, unhealthy Gen Pop folks, or standard American diet eating folks, just what you would consider Gen Pop out there. Enclomiphene, which is parent hormone, causes ocular size, there's no question. Blood clots as well in a rare subset of people, but a good enough amount of people. Not just antagonizes estrogen receptors, but estrogen can still accumulate even if you're antagonizing the receptors. And by the way, you're not antagonizing them everywhere, right? Serum estradiol is still going to be a problem, elevated, whether you're antagonizing it from the hypothalamus pituitary perspective or not. Anyway, enough riffing about that. We talked about it, me and Vigorous Steve, on a podcast recently. And in response to that, I got this email from the founder of Maximus Tribe, okay? So I'm going to shrink me for a second just to show you guys how weird this company is. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Is there a way for me to do that? Hold on. Give me 1 second, bros. There we go. Okay. All right, so here it is. Let me shrink myself down. Okay, this is the email. This is from Cameron Seppa, who's the founder of Maximus Tribe, right? He's the guy that's pushing oral TRT and enclomiphene and all this stuff. This is his information. Do what you will with it. And he goes, Ryan, I saw you posted a YouTube video and called me so full of shit and criticized my company Maximus. I did call him full of shit, yes, because he's mentioned that the side effects reported in the clinical trials of regular Clomid are indistinguishable from placebo, which is horseshit. That's complete bullshit, right? We understand you have a company, Cameron. We understand you have a company and you're trying to sell your shit like everybody else is trying to sell their shit. Fully okay. But don't lie to people, okay? You lie to people and, you aggressively attack a well-known YouTuber with the whole biohacking community as my audience. That, trust me, there's going to be repercussions for that. You don't do that kind of shit in this world. You want to communicate nicely about something, you can do that, but don't be espousing bullshit to what ultimately is my market and my community, right? Our community. He goes, now I'm happy to have a discussion with you to dispel misunderstandings about what we do. Those of you that just jumped on, this is the Maximus Tribe founder who emailed me something nasty as a result of me and Vigorous Steve talking about, the inefficacy of enclomiphene, how it's a bad strategy if you want to raise testosterone. He goes, given you're unfamiliar with our protocols, but then he goes, consider this a warning shot. This is where it gets threatening. I suggest you and Steve delete the video and keep me and my company's name out of your mouth. Otherwise, I'll get my lawyers involved for defamation and start investigating Cortex Labs practices that the FDA would be interested in. We have far more, here's where the guy obviously is a fucking scumbag. We have far more resources than you when it comes to pursuing legal action. Then here's the last little threat. Make the wise decision, not the emotional one, Cam. So this is the founder of Maximus Tribe, who when me and Vigorous Steve pointed out the inefficacy and really the absurdity of using enclomiphene as a TRT, it's not TRT, right? Enclomiphene is a fucking SERM that is used for PCT. That's it. You use it to post-cycle therapy off of androgens so that you can, force the hypothalamus pituitary to start function again, and gonadotropin hormone releasing hormone, and then gonadotropin releasing hormone to function so that LH and FSH can be created endogenously. That is what you use enclomiphene for, okay? You don't use it for TRT. And we talked about that, among other things, and this is the email that I got, from the guy, suggesting probably in their early days, hopefully they've gotten that together, Maximus Tribe, but in addition to that stuff, in addition to the inefficacy in terms of like raising testosterone in a safe way that enclomiphene, produces, that the founder will email one of the lead biohackers in the world, because we've discussed his company, and threaten me legally because of it. So I just wanted you guys to know what you're dealing with here, what kind of company you're. If you got a disagreement with somebody, you interact with them. Like I've disagreed with Dave Lee before on the web, but guess what? Dave Lee's coming on the podcast because he has a lot of great shit to say, and the guy's super intelligent, and I can't wait to get him on, to talk about TRT with you guys. So that's the way that you would approach something like that, not like this. Okay, Cameron, I think you ought to rethink your fucking approach there, bucko. All right, let's take me back up and let's get to questions. I've had a really interesting week. God, I have an interesting every day, right? When it comes to new protocols or seeing what works for people. Again, what's been top of mind for me in my client work is a couple things. A lot of it has to do with aromatization regarding TRT, that anastrozole and aromacin, but anastrozole specifically, is a hard drug to dose. Dialing in your estradiol on TRT is very, very tricky. And in most cases, you just want to take it down a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. There is some research to suggest that, if you are very low on androgens for a while, and then, but you have somewhat adequate estradiol, which is possible, like you could be sitting at 325 total tests and 25 estradiol. That is possible. You're over aromatizing or whatever. Drink a lot of alcohol and your test is going to estradiol. But in those cases, estradiol can sort of act as sexual function for a male for a temporary period, unknown period. The literature really doesn't, clear that up. It's just sort of like they're speculating about time frame. Who knows? But it does happen. One of the potential reasons for this, estradiol has all kinds of pathways of modulating neurotransmitters, usually inhibitory toward libido, in inhibiting dopamine function from the arcuate nucleus, as an example, which is pretty important for libido. But the other thing is that, yeah, I went on like a complete tangent. I forgot what I was saying. The other thing is that, look, estradiol. Estradiol has the ability, or can have the ability, to occupy the androgen receptors. Okay, in some of these cases. So, and that's been proven in the scientific literature as well. So, if you're on TRT and the estradiol is still in range, or even looks good, like it can be at 35, guys, and which everybody on Reddit's going to tell you is completely fine. It's possible. Like I've seen this in my consulting practice, so I know it's possible, but it's possible that it just needs to go down to 27, and that for a brief period, for 4 to 5 days a week, you need a very minor amount of inhibition of aromatase, which you can achieve with other compounds. You don't need AIs necessarily, in order for estradiol to potentially, right? This is theoretical, to potentially not fuss with androgen receptors, which they have the ability to do in the literature. So sometimes you need a little bit of an AI, right? If I start getting erectile issues, libido issues, it's again 0.003, 0.006 milligrams anastrozole, and literally later that day the boners are back. So something to keep in mind. And I do everything possible to reduce aromatization. So freaking Cameron, yeah. If you guys want to rewind the video or whatever, I got threatened by the founder of Maximus Tribe, because Vigorous Steve and I were talking about the inefficacy and really the absurdity of using enclomiphene for TRT or to raise testosterone. It's a fucking PCT drug, period. That's it. And then we got a threatening email from the founder, which I showed you guys in the beginning of the live stream if you want to rewind it. Very, very bizarre. Very, very, very amateur. Lewis, do you think I should take Proviron on and off to stay on for longer, or just stay on for longer? I had many different opinions on it, and it's better to cycle it. I'm 12 to 25 milligrams twice a day dosage. Okay, interesting. I mean, I would hope that 12.5 is your twice daily and not 25, because then you're at 50. I mean, if you're not on TRT, that might be okay, the higher dose of Proviron. I think that could be fine. But, let's see, long-term issues with Proviron. Potentially you could have liver issues. Now, like, if you read the Wikipedia article on Proviron, it's going to tell you there's no liver toxicity, but there actually is a case study. There's a patient who had acute liver toxicity from the usage of Testosterone or Proviron. So while that is really rare and no one reports that on the Reddit anecdotals, and you're probably just not going to see that anywhere, it did happen to a person, in the scientific literature. So I guess that's something just to weigh in or to consider when you're weighing your possibilities on taking it long term. Proviron is a DHT analog, so, it's going to act as if it is DHT in your physiology. It acts a little bit differently on the androgen receptors, proven by a paper that shows that it can actually restore mutated androgen receptors and some of the binding domains on the androgen receptors. There's 3 primary binding domains on the androgen receptors, and Proviron can restore those. So it's a little different than your inherent DHT, because your inherent DHT could not do that, and that was proven in this paper. Other than that, potently androgenic, pretty anabolic, right? Has the ability to further lower SHBG if you're already on test, and if you're not, it's going to lower it to a degree anyway, free up some free testosterone, but it might take SHBG problematically low, in the low teens or something, which could be an issue for some people and also isn't an issue for other people. By the way, it's not just a straight shot. Anything else potentially wrong? Yeah, no, I mean, your DHT levels on your blood are probably going to be significantly higher. You might get a little hair loss, maybe some acne and stuff associated with that, but that's not entirely different from TRT, right? So, I think your best bet is to run it, keep running it, and run labs along the way. Liver values, look at your lipids, especially because it may, has the ability and could mess with your lipids. If that's a problem, you might want to back off of it. Look at other biomarkers, make sure everything's straight, and then kind of decide how you want to proceed moving forward, but I really don't see a huge problem with it. Again, your mileage is going to vary. All right. So I got a question about suffering from depression or anxiety for more than 10 years, 35 years old. 10 years ago, I had 300 to 350 nanograms per milliliter test. Now 450 with Tonga. Can it be the root of my mental problems? Potentially. Yeah. The thing is, the root of the mental issues are neurotransmitter based always. Right? Whether you're not clearing catecholamines fast enough or appropriately, because people's brains, can get into these funky states, usually as a result of a lack of B vitamins, and many other things can cause this too, where you're not adequately clearing catecholamines like your brain is supposed to. Like a B complex per day will help you clear catecholamines better, but it could be many things. I mean, you could have like some sort of GABAergic deficiency. Anyway, though, neurotransmitters being awry can certainly be modified and fixed by hormones, because ultimately every action that a hormone has actions that hormones have, testosterone specifically and estradiol have on your state, your mood, are via binding to the androgen receptors, but then there's genetic activity which modulates neurotransmitters, right? So ultimately the effects of androgens, especially on libido and estradiol on libido, are neurotransmitter mediated. So, going on testosterone would not only vastly replenish and restore your body's level of androgens, probably to a level that you've never had before, which will feel very therapeutic and good, usually, so long as you're controlling estradiol, and maybe you just need a little bit of an AI once every 7 days kind of thing. But, where's the question here? Yeah. It is quite possible that 400 to 450 is really just not where you're going to feel best. That where you felt your best was when you were 17 or 18 at 900 nanograms per deciliter or 750 or whatever. Keep in mind too, I think that the translation between exogenous testosterone and endogenous testosterone is different in that, what your endogenous testosterone felt like at 750, you might have to reach 1200, 1250 of exogenous testosterone to feel. And either way, with HCG or with, TRT, you use HCG because that's just going to make everything substantially better as long as you're controlling estradiol. So yeah, what you ought to look at is the testosterone subreddit and the TRT subreddit, the countless anecdotes of people having anxiety disorders, getting on testosterone and that being resolved. Ryan the Lawless. There's a movie with, God, what the fuck's his name? Forget. because I haven't really seen him. Shia LaBeouf, called Lawless, I believe it's called Lawless. Really good movie, guys. Really, really good. Like takes place in the old days, like when guys were drinking moonshine. Really, really good. Thoughts on bromontane, useful for athletes? Absolutely. I believe bromontane is on the ban list somewhere, whether it's USADA or elsewhere, probably Olympic sports. I don't think you can take bromontane. Exceptionally, right? Because it's an actoprotector, which is really just a fancy word for synthetic adaptogen. Synthetic adaptogen. Adaptogens change the way that your neurology specifically responds to physical stressors, changes in temperature, and otherwise stressors that may mess with neurotransmitters or hormones, right? So bromontane is very useful in that regard. At the same time, like there's research on it showing us that if you take bromontane with methamphetamine analogs, like prescription methamphetamine analogs, or otherwise dopamine reuptake inhibitors like Adderall, the effect from the Adderall in this case is potentiated multifold from having bromontane in the picture, right? And that is probably because it helps you synthesize more dopamine by acting on an enzyme called tyrosine hydroxylase. So the answer is, my thoughts are it's a pretty epic compound, cycled. I think you should cycle it. 20 to 50 milligrams, very energetic for me. Can potentiate other dopaminergics and can absolutely increase performance, physical performance and brain performance. Zakiria is asking about 9-MeBC. Is it true that it shouldn't be taken with methyl donors like B12 and folate as they become potentially neurotoxic? No, I don't know where you heard that. Probably Reddit, where people were misinterpreting scientific literature. But no, I've never seen this to be true. I take it B-complex every day. The 19th, which was yesterday, was my last day of dosing 20 milligrams a day for 20 straight days of 9-MeBC. So, and I'm taking, B-complex every day. And I switch it between, an unknown brand B-complex and Jarrow B-Right, which has methylated B vitamins in it. So no, this isn't. There's a lot of, as I've said before, there is a ton of misconception and misinterpreting of scientific literature and guessing and, in an attempt to get upvotes, like fear mongering on Reddit, especially regarding chemicals. It's been like that for years. So you have to know that when that's happening, it's usually not true. It's usually not true when that happens. Everything from mucuna is dangerous to uridine causes cancer to 9-MeBC is neurotoxic. If those people did even an ounce of diligence, they'd find out that the neurotoxin that they're referring to is actually called 9-DimeBC, which 9-MeBC has neuroprotective effects against in the studies. Just do a little bit of diligence. This is how you can tell these guys really haven't done their diligence. NSI 189. I forget exactly what that does. I have not taken it, I don't believe. But there are a lot of anecdotes that people say that it's pretty effective. Christopher's asking about permanent changes in the brain from 9-MeBC. It is difficult for me to tell, right? Because being on TRT, eating well, making sure I get enough tyrosine in my diet, not drinking alcohol, not watching a lot of porn, I probably do consume some degree of porn. It may be in the context of being with another woman, may or may not be. But generally keeping the dopamine system functional is what I'm alluding to. I feel pretty good all the time, right? So 9-MeBC does acutely make everything better, makes me a lot more happier. I'm generally excited for things that maybe otherwise I'd be taking for granted. I just can find excitement in things with 9-MeBC. It's really interesting. But, there is a carryover effect of good brain performance and good dopaminergic performance, which is like motivation, reward, and libido from 9-MeBC every time I take it, right? How long that lasts in the state that I end up in subsequently is hard to distinguish from the state that I'm usually in, which is a high dopaminergic state anyway, right? Via TRT and other things. So it is very difficult. In the context of, getting, off of Vyvanse, well, first of all, it'll probably reset your tolerance to Vyvanse. So be careful. Secondly, yes, it'll more than likely help you to get off of the compound. It is my theory. This is not proven in scientific literature, but you got to be able to put things together if you have enough experience with something that there are a lot of suboptimal dopaminergic states that can be remedied by 9-MeBC. Not the least of which is probably Parkinson's disease. That's what it's studied for. Zarfed, brother, nice seeing you. Hope you're doing great. Any new substance? Besides upcoming cerebral license cycle, 2 milliliters every other day, 2 milliliters every third day. I haven't figured it out yet. No, just ran a 20-day cycle of 9 MEBC. Other than that, yeah, I mean, probably the newest compound I'm using is testosterone propionate, which I really like. I did, however, just get some testosterone enanthate in, and I've never used that for a long time, so I might want to experiment with that. We'll see, just to report on it, etc. Other than that, not a lot. Aaron, good morning. Hope you're doing great. Bromotain nasal spray, what are your thoughts? 90 milligrams per milliliter, how many sprays would you take? I would take the equivalent to 25 to 50 milligrams, so I don't really know what that translation is. I think it can be effective because you've got nasal epithelium, olfactory epithelium, which compounds can penetrate and affect brain chemistry right away. Okay, there's a lot of research on that. Do I recommend Aromacin? Yeah, I think you're going to find the AI that you're going to have to find the AI that works for you. You know, I like them both, but frankly, I think Arimidex is a little better for me. It's quicker. You know, you don't have to take a lot at all. Like yesterday, I dosed 0.06 milligrams of anastrozole, right? Because boners were getting a little suboptimal. Libido was just a little suboptimal. I'm not one of those guys that when estradiol goes up, my libido gets better. It does to a certain extent, and then it goes away completely or close to it. And when that starts to happen is usually the indication to take an AI, which is not on a schedule. It can happen on the 6th day after previously taking an AI. It can happen on the 14th day. It really depends on a myriad of different factors. You know, I've got theories on why, but, you know, who knows sometimes, sorcery. But Aromacin lowers estradiol slower. Still very effective, right? Yeah, and lower dosing it to begin with is very useful because it's a suicide inhibitor, meaning that, you know, it will confuse, if you will, the aromatase enzymes, and then they have to be metabolized out of your body and they stop working. In order for you to, you know, have that same level of aromatase activity thereafter, those aromatase enzymes have to be rebuilt, which they will, but that can take some time. So, you know, if you take estradiol sub 20, well, I'll call it sub 15 picograms per milliliter with Aromacin, you might be up shit's creek for 2 weeks because it might take that time for estradiol to come back. Otherwise, if you can get the dose right, plenty of anecdotes to say that it's very effective. Plenty of clients of mine use it. Probably more use Arimidex, but, you know, people use Aromacin as well. Question about SHBG. Can low SHBG cause low to no libido? It would not be the only contributor. No. I mean, you need some degree of healthy SHBG so that you can transport androgens to tissues, right? But, you know, low SHBG, only on Reddit do people claim that's a problem. And I think they're really just making errors in attribution to what is otherwise a bad TRT protocol, or just a protocol they haven't figured out yet that will work for them, just haven't figured out. Whether it's switching the ester, at low dosing an AI, adding calcium glucarate, whatever. Estrogen's the really the biggest problem on TRT. If you wanted to raise SHBG, if you wanted to raise SHBG though, you would just increase estradiol, which I don't necessarily suggest, but if that's something you needed to do to test that, then do it. Nifazodone, yeah. If you have PSSD, then obviously the medical establishment is either lying to you or they don't know. And it's probably the former. It's probably a mix between the former and the latter. But yeah, I mean, if that's a serotonergic drug, even if it's a dopaminergic drug, many drugs can cause sexual side effects, like sexual symptoms that mimic PSSD. Thoughts on Cabergoline? Pretty safe drug to take. I think it's been unfairly treated as if it causes, just going to give you a heart murmur when you take it. You need a cumulative dose of 300 milligrams over what would ultimately take for hyperprolactinemia in the context of, like, you know, steroid-induced hyperprolactinemia or a pituitary adenoma. It takes 5.7 years, I figured out, to reach 300 milligrams cumulative dose of Cabergoline. Take 5.7 years. So you wouldn't be on that unless you had a macroprolactinoma, which is characterized as a prolactinoma, prolactin secreting pituitary tumor, which is past a certain threshold in size, a very big pituitary adenoma, or you were using Cabergoline for dopamine replacement because you had Parkinson's. That's the only way that you would run the risk of doing that. Other than that, there is no more effective drug than Cabergoline for lowering prolactin because it is a direct, very powerful, long-acting agonist at the dopamine D2 receptors, which sit on the lactotropes. Those are prolactin secreting cells. That's my thoughts on Cabergoline. Pretty useful. I think it can take your prolactin down very low. You'll have, I mean, I've taken it. I've also taken a lot of other stuff that lowered my prolactin, and, you know, I could have sex and then an hour later have sex again, no problem, because it lowers refractory period a lot. Don't have a whole lot of thoughts on Long Jack. Has lactoferrin been successful in raising iron? Somewhat. I've taken it in the past because TRT lowered, ferritin a little bit. Generally, for me, if I wanted to raise iron, I would eat beef 3 times a week, and I would low dose 2 times a day an iron supplement. You take the entire supplement at once, and you are going to, what time is it here? I just got to check. And you are going to have gastrointestinal problems. Yeah. That's one of the, things with iron that is problematic. Yeah, you have GI issues if the dose is too high. Lactoferrin is a pretty cool compound though, and does have the ability to raise iron as well as ferritin. What nootropics would you recommend for OCD and overthinking? That's usually a dopaminergic problem. Difficult to tell. I'm not necessarily versed in what exactly is happening there. Maybe high dose L-theanine for that. That's what I'd say. Pregnenolone is not available in my local labs. Can I estimate whether or not I have low pregnenolone by progesterone blood test? I don't know, and I don't believe so. But you can look at the downstream hormones like testosterone and estradiol, and if they are in range but low or deficient, then you may have a pregnenolone deficiency. Pregnenolone is really usually not the thing to target though in those cases. You could just take HCG to raise everything to adequate levels, or get on testosterone plus HCG and you raise everything to adequate levels. This question goes, I'm assuming you can only get the testosterone cream via prescription, correct? There may be a way to get it UGL, but I do not currently have a way for that. I'm interested in trying it for 2 month cycle, and I need to worry about shutdown for that amount of time. Yeah, within about 3-4 weeks, your hypothalamus pituitary would shut down to an extent, probably to a great extent. Yeah, definitely. Number one, because you'll have estradiol in the picture, which is, binding to the receptors, ERB, ERA receptors in the pituitary, which is, ultimately making you not pump out more LH-FSH. When that gets very low, that's one of the signals that, you need to pump out LHF. It's actually really one of the only main feedback signals. The pituitary relies much more on estrogen and doesn't really monitor testosterone all that much, for the record. People have that confused, but yeah, you would have to get a script for it. It would shut you down more than likely, but if you run it only in the morning, by the end of the day, you will almost definitely be troughing significantly. So you'll potentially have less of a shutdown. I can't give you a guarantee on that because your mileage is going to vary, but the literature is very clear on fast-acting esters and that there's less suppression of the hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis. That's true. That's just true. So possibly, but you're still going to get some suppression. 2 month cycle may not be enough time to get whatever goals you're trying to get in. I would suggest, if you're wanting to run it for animalism, running it for 6 months. Yeah, at the dose that makes sense for you. Be very careful though, because it's super stimulating, especially scrotal application. Very, very stimulating. You got to find the right dose. Too much and you'll have side effects. Too little, you won't get the benefit enough. DHT is almost definitely going to go through the roof regardless of your administration practice or method. Dio Brando says, what's a good timing for dosage for an MBC? In the morning, 20 to 50 milligrams is what I would suggest. We'll still have good absorption in a capsule. Yes. Not a huge fan of the burning sensation. I'm using liquid. Yeah, if liquid works, great. Don't use this stuff sublingual. That's like Reddit telling you to do dumb things. I would not do that. You're going to lose your taste and your potentially your smell. And you will have GI problems. It's a caustic chemical is why. It means it burns tissues. You want to put it in a capsule and that's it. You're still going to get the benefit from it, putting it in a capsule. This is where, again, Redditors are it's just a little fringy sometimes. Post-nut clarity. Look at the name, bros. The honeymoon phase from TRT did only last for 2 months. Now I'm feeling normal and boring again. I would say bring HCG in your picture and manage estradiol. 100% that will solve your problem. I have experience with cerebral lysin. It gave me anxiety and agitation. Maybe dose is too high, but it's a really proven drug. Yeah, very effective. It didn't do that to me. It gave me a little brain fog last time I ran it. I was running higher doses than I'm about to run on it because I'm going to run another cycle soon. Yeah, it may have been upregulate. The neurotrophic factor expression, may have been fully optimizing excitatory neurotransmission, acetylcholine glutamate specifically, dopamine. And so that could give you anxiety, right? Maybe it had some carryover effect on the catecholamines and that could happen. It all really is, in my opinion, it all acts how it acts in the context of your situation, right? You know, what is your situation and what do you need, or what, you know, what is your brain performance like? What is your neurological state like? You know, these compounds tend to interplay with your neurophysiological state, if I could use that as a phrase to explain where your state is now, what receptors may be awry, what previous drugs that you've used in the past. Neurology is very, very complex. Neuroscience is very, very complex, man. I mean, I'm into and reading the literature and doing experiments and working with clients for 16 years. And there's so much still about neuroscience that I don't understand, right? Because no one does. Just some guy with a husky as his profile pic says, should you take bromontane on the same day as Adderall on different days? Again, in the scientific literature, bromontane will potentiate the effects of other dopaminergics. It probably does so via helping you to synthesize more tyrosine hydroxylase, which is one of the major dopamine conversion enzymes. So you could do it. Not saying you can't do it. Would I personally do it? No. Like, I just wouldn't feel a need to do that. It'd be pretty potently overstimulating. It'd be too much for me personally, but maybe it wouldn't be too much for you. I think you could take it and you would be fine. Not going to cause any negatives, except for potentially some side effects that are not dangerous. Have you taken a stack today? Nope, just testosterone, just 25 milligrams, sub-Q testosterone propionate, done and done at 6 a.m. this morning, because I woke up a little later than usual today. Gene Furious, do you think nootropics can help with neurotransmitter dysregulations that lead to eating disorders like bulimia? I don't know, because I'm unfamiliar with which neurotransmitters are implicated in bulimia. Likely though, if it is neurotransmitters that are implicated in this condition, then modifying them via nootropics will maybe not change the problem positively, but it will modify it. It will change the issue. It will change the dynamics of what is happening there, assuming that the issue is strictly neurotransmitter based, which I can't answer that. Bisetti says 6 milligrams of snus made me pass out. Is that like, it's a nicotine thing? First time nicotine. Is that normal? I wouldn't call it normal, but I'm not surprised by that. Yeah, I was a smoker in the United States military. And so after that, when I quit, I tried smoking a pipe, and I like smoked it as if I was smoking, like as I would smoke cigarettes in the army. And it was so much, it just apparently was so much fucking tobacco, like at once, that I became lightheaded and did not feel good. Yeah. If I take any nicotine patch bigger than or higher dose wise than a 7 milligram patch, like a 14 or 21 milligram patch of nicotine, then I also feel very unwell. Whereas a 7 milligram patch feels like Adderall. So, or modafinil. I shouldn't really say Adderall. I should just say modafinil. It's very, very powerful. So yeah, nicotine has the ability to do that. And that is not uncommon. Aaron, you are welcome, brother. Manuel, is 9-MeO-BC safe to take with modafinil? Look, I think it would be fine, but a couple things you have to keep in mind. 9-MeO-BC is a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which means it's going to inhibit a couple chemicals in your brain that clear neurotransmitters from the synaptic space, which is the space available to bind to receptors and activate them, kind of the active space in the brain. So that means you're going to have elevated neurotransmitters as a result of just taking 9-MeO-BC, acutely. Well, if you take modafinil, you're also elevating neurotransmitters, specifically dopamine, via a different mechanism, DAT inhibition, dopamine transporter inhibition. And so as a result of that, you probably have very high dopamine, and that you could have side effects from very high dopamine, impulsiveness, jaw clenching, etc. I don't believe that modafinil is very much working on the serotonergic system other than potentially an inhibitory action, because it does have inhibitory action over GABA. But if GABA is inhibited and you're taking 9-MeO-BC, which is elevating neurotransmitters, that just might not be good. For me personally, I would not do that. I believe I have before. Nothing crazy happened, but I just wouldn't suggest it. Ray Tango is asking if I've ever seen some bilirubin increases due to TRT. I have not. That doesn't mean it can't happen though. Okay. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Me personally, that's never happened. My liver enzymes have never moved ever. There's certain things in my physiology that never move. Blood sugar, liver enzymes, cholesterol will certainly move, but not bilirubin. No, doesn't mean it can't happen, brother. Cause it could, I mean, if you're running if you have a symptom and you think it's bilirubin, just run the labs and you'll see. Josh is trying to encapsulate 9-BC for 30 milligrams. Can't seem to find empty capsules for it. Which one would you suggest? You could use 00 or single 0. You could just use single 0 capsules, just a single 0. You search that on Amazon to find those capsules. That would be fine. Yeah, single 0 or 00 capsules. You're not using a lot of material, and 9 MEBC is like, and 30 milligrams of 9 MEBC is just a very, very small amount of material. Postnut Clarity says, thinks Tony Huge had heart issues while Cabergoline. Well, you'd have to have reached a cumulative dose of, at least 200, 300 milligrams. And, you can only speculate those kinds of things. But again, the scientific literature is so clear on that. They won't even give you a 2D echo unless you reach a cumulative dose of Cabergoline. So it's been studied. It's not cardiotoxic, in the regular use in hyperprolactinemia from a steroid cycle or from, even from pituitary adenomas. Moses said the podcast with Vigorous Steve was very informative. Jordan, I love that you watched it, bro, and everybody else that may have come here from Vigorous Steve's channel. I appreciate the fact that you're here, bros. Dude, we're all the same, man. Vigorous Steve, I found him, God, I want to say a year and a half ago. I forget why. Like, it was something relative to TRT. Like, this fucking guy is one of the only other guys that reads the scientific literature, that operates from the scientific literature, that is, entrenched in the biohacking and the HRT and the AAS community, and has standards to say things that are true only, mostly, right? Like, we can get shit wrong, in which case, if we are, we'll go and fix it or resolve it or whatever. But Steve's just one of those really highly intelligent, interested guys in biohacking, etc. So, when I first talked to him about a year and a half ago, and him and I got on a podcast and did some content together back then in 2022 or early 2023, I knew that was just going to be a really cool relationship. Steve is also a very good guy. Like, how, like, when you're interact with people, like, you get a bad feeling about them, or you get the feeling that they're just wholesome and good. Vigorous Steve is a good guy. So, the podcast was very epic. Swisher Swish, in the context of hyperprolactinemia, why is it usually recommended to take Cabergoline for weeks to months when plasma levels are usually lowered drastically only after one dose? Well, I suppose it depends on where your levels are, as why. Also, what's causing it? If the offender is still in the picture, like a pituitary adenoma, you're going to need to keep taking it, and it will not lower serum prolactin levels in a week or month. Because if you're at 258 nanograms per milliliter prolactin, which is where and higher a prolactinoma can take you, it's going to take you 6 months to a year to normalize that prolactin, because you have extra lactotropes that are secreting a bunch of prolactin, and you'll likely have downregulated D2 receptor function on those lactotropes in the pituitary. So, it's a slow process, and you might have high estrogen. Nobody even thinks about that, but like, there's guys that have resolved their hyperprolactinemia by just aromatase inhibitors. So otherwise, though, like, if you're at 22 nanograms per milliliter, Cabergoline will be reduced to in range within a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, but it's suggested to take it longer than that so that the lactotropes completely downregulate, which Cabergoline has been proven to do in the scientific literature, right? In many people's experiences, it actually causes like a fibrosis of sorts on those lactotropes. So in order to get to the absolute, in order to basically cure the root cause of hyperprolactinemia from the cells that secrete prolactin's perspective, you would want to take Cabergoline longer. That's the answer to that question. Therapeutic doses of growth hormone alongside TRT. Probably Vigorous Steve would be a better person to ask, about that. I don't have a whole lot of experience with it, frankly. Probably help you sleep better. It may help your libido to an extent. Probably going to help you put on a little more mass. Other than that, I'm not a specialist in it. Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil's here, everyone. Is there a benefit to adding HCG to a cycle of tests at 900 a week and DECA 300? Probably, yeah. I mean, well, I suppose it depends on what your goals are, right? I mean, if sexual function is fine on, 1,000 milligrams of test a week and DECA 300, then not really. I mean, I don't really see a benefit other than maintaining fertility to some extent, right? You're going to be suppressed at a very significant level with that dose of these compounds. But, look, I mean, load quality, semen quantity, genital sensation, libido, orgasm, climax ability, like those things are always optimized via taking HCG, so long as you're controlling estradiol. If you're not controlling estradiol, nothing good can happen from HCG. So, So it really depends on where you're at. Like if libido is shot because maybe prolactin is rising because of the DECA, or because estradiol-induced prolactin secretion, which definitely can happen in susceptible individuals. I've seen it happen before. There's a mechanism for it. It's ERB, ERA receptors on the lactotropes. Then yes, maybe HCG would be useful for you to get sexual function back or get libido back on this cycle. And in that previous, hypothetical, taking some cabergoline to bring the prolactin down. Otherwise, if you don't have issues right now, no, it really wouldn't be useful. You can get testicular function back to pretty significant size and functionality with HCG thereafter once you go back on a cruise or TRT dose. Good question though, brother. I hope that ends up working well for you, and I hope you're looking at your labs and your blood work. Axiom says, what supplements, prescription meds should 100% be avoided with 9-MeBC? Probably your SNRI. Yeah. And probably the benzo as well. That'd be my opinion. Yeah. I wouldn't take either of them on that. Alternating days, you might be okay with that. You might be okay taking it on those days. I can't suggest that to you specifically because if you've got elevated synaptic serotonin, then you have a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which 9-MeBC is. You've got dual pathways through which elevated serotonin happens, and you run the risk of serotonin syndrome. That's really the only problem I see with that. So if I were you, I just would tread very lightly, do some research, maybe start off very low dosing, see how you feel, monitor your blood pressure when you're doing it, things of that nature. All right. Lyrica works wonderful for a person, both for anxiety and depression, even 75 milligrams once daily. Using it with cause because of addiction potential. What nootropics can help with GABA? Yeah, I mean, any benzo or I don't know, GABA receptor agonist, which I assume this is, GABA receptor modulator, benzo site at the GABA A receptor modulator, has the potential for addiction, which is just terrible. That's why phenibut is, though a good drug to take intermittently, not a good drug to take consistently. I've seen a lot of horror stories on that personally working with real people, not just Reddit. Other nootropics with GABA to affect GABA safely would be fasoracetam, probably the most effective nootropic for that. Dr. Phil says, Swisher says, I thought Caber didn't keep prolactin down, only lower temporarily. No, Cabergoline will again induce, it'll induce cell death on lactotropes. These are the cells that secrete prolactin. Right? Because on those lactotropes sit dopamine D2 receptors. When dopamine comes and binds to that receptor, to the D2 receptors on the lactotropes, that shuts down the lactotrope's ability to produce prolactin. And when done consistently, those cells involute and downregulate. Okay. So you could cure, your hyperprolactinemic state by using Cabergoline. It's not just a temporary reduction. Some people, it will come back, right? Because they've got a tumor, or they're taking kratom, or they're doing other things. They're blocking the D2 receptor. They're taking antipsychotics with D2 receptor antagonists. And so that's going to be an ongoing issue. Post-nut clarity. God, that name. I work as a music producer and found that modafinil makes music sound so good. Yes. Do you have any other nootropics that make music feel awesome? Any monoamine oxidase inhibitor, any dopamine reuptake inhibitor, modafinil is pretty effective for that. Subroxy would be another option for that. Phenylpiracetam would be a third option for that, because phenylpiracetam is a dopamine reuptake inhibitor as well as an optimizing agent for brain acetylcholine, and I think peripheral, otherwise physical body acetylcholine. That's why it's banned in sporting stuff like doping agencies and things. Josh is asking, what are your thoughts on neurotransmitter take-home kits for dopamine serotonin? Neurotransmitters are not the root cause of PSSD and anhedonia. Dopamine is the root cause, or like the root neurotransmitter. I would call it exclusive influencing factor of anhedonia. But, and for that condition, for anhedonia specifically, you'd need to modify you'd have to approach it from a neuroendocrine perspective, not just the neurology part of it, but modifying neurotransmitters, specifically optimizing the fuck out of dopamine in any possible way that you can, even going extreme if you have to with research chemicals like 9-MeBC, and tandem taking hormones. But as far as the efficacy of urine neurotransmitter tests, which is what I think that probably is, I can't really speak on it. Do I think it's accurate? Not really. You know, I don't really know how you can be accurate with neurotransmitters. Like if you understand them, I don't think so. Okay, here we go. Manuel is saying, when upping my dopamine or running tests, I find that my libido is super elevated and distracting to my productivity. Any thoughts, tips on balancing this? Nope. Enjoy it while you can, because many people haven't dialed their protocol in enough to experience that great state. So if I were you, I would enjoy it while it lasts. That's a great thing. It means, the system is responding very well to, in this case, exogenous hormones. We're upping dopamine with supplements. I'm generally the same, so long as estradiol is controlled. So I think that that's a great thing. Recommendations for dopamine replenishment after Adderall use. Yeah, cycle of 9 MEBC. Thereafter, maintenance dosing of L-tyrosine or mecunopurines. Thoughts on Dave Palumbo going after Steve? I have not seen that. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Steve says a lot of things that are true, and if what he's saying goes counter to what you may have said historically, you're probably going to hate him in an attempt to, in an immature way, protect your brand or whatever. Again, just like the Maximus Tribe founder legal threat emailed me like a fucking child, because him and Steve and I discussed the inefficacy and the absurdity of using enclomiphene as TRT, which is a fucking PCT drug. Like, let's just not be ridiculous here. Like, they're fooling Gen Pop guys into thinking this is like some safe, good strategy. It's not. So maybe Steve said something that Palumbo, countered or was counter to what Palumbo had said at one point, and that's just it. People get into drama, and it's honestly ridiculous. I don't really have time for it. Mostly, I will set the record straight if somebody's being a dickhead for no reason, or if they're fucking wrong, or if they're harming the community in some way. Absolutely. That's why I think it's useful that Liver King was called out by Vigorous Steve and Derek from NPMD. Anybody that's harmful for the community, they're going to get exposed. Period. So I don't really know what their beef was about, man. So couldn't help you there. Post Nut Clarity is saying, God, I love that name, bro. Lately, I'm feeling very short on it, because you do have it. You're like, what am I even doing? Like getting irritated by loud people sitting close to me in the buses. Is it midlife crisis, TRT, or estrogen? Well, I'm aware of your numbers, brother. High estrogen can cause a lot of fucking weird issues, man. A lot of weird stuff that people just think they'll get used to, and maybe some do, some don't, though. And so I don't really know. Check the time here. But I can tell you this, like, high estrogen is more likely to leave you kind of agitated, stimulated, sort of uncomfortably than very high levels of testosterone. So, it's probably the estradiol, because it's modifying neurotransmitters. It's not just estradiol, right? It's ERB, ERA receptors and their subsequent action on neurotransmitters. Maybe excess glutamate, maybe inhibition of GABA. I really don't know. There is inhibition of dopamine with high estrogen. It's region specific in the brain, but that's a true thing. So it could absolutely be the case. I know that if I take two high doses of cholinergics like Noopept, Atoracetam, Oxyracetam, then I get short with people quicker. I'm angrier at slow drivers or slow walking people at the store. Is there a tool to encapsulate more than one 9 MBC capsule at once? Yeah, you would just get a capsule maker. You should Google the capsule connection capsule machine and just buy that thing. Much obliged. BP is perfect, and only plan on doing 15 milligrams to get over some low mood issues. Good luck. Good luck, brother. Can you eat yogurt for serotonin every day, or do you need cycling? I think that's fine. You're really looking at the serotonin producing gut species in some brands of yogurt. Some, they may not be effective because they don't have adequate quantities or whatever. The cultures aren't actively alive, but generally speaking, yes. When I feel I'm low on serotonin, usually yogurt is the solution, and my mood actually does get better. And I don't think it's attributable to placebo. So it's one of those things. Retter says, try different strains of Kratom for mental health purposes. Most people praise it, but it makes me irritated and sleepy regardless of dose. Brain just doesn't work well on Kratom. Not surprised. Yeah, man, it's inhibiting, pulsatile luteinizing hormone secretion, which is going to inhibit your testosterone production. And also via agonizing opioid receptors, the mu opioid receptor, your secreting extra prolactin. There's nothing good about kratom, boys. Nothing good about it. Cortex cannot be ordered in the UK. UK has some, stringent laws against certain compounds coming in, which I know is ridiculous, and we haven't been able to sell it there since its inception in 2016. So very, very not fun. Yeah, just stupid. Actually, just super stupid. Literally the dumbest thing ever, right? I don't know why they attack us on that. Plenty of other people do source citicoline and the compounds that they don't want in there. Oh no, man, they just tended to hit us up for some reason. If you don't like doing something, can dopaminergics helps me? Yeah, dopaminergics help you like doing it? Potentially, yes. Yeah. Generally, though, I was just talking to a good friend of mine last night about she is taking some classes and she's got this essay to write this weekend, and she has no interest in it. So she hates it. She's dreading doing it because she doesn't like it, right? So, if she had taken a dopaminergic drug, yeah, potentially she could get into it. The better you feel cognitively, neurologically, physically, in terms of hormone status, the more you're going to be interested in things, especially if dopamine is peaking, the more you can find interest in stuff you wouldn't otherwise find interest in. So there's that. Otherwise, if you just hate what you do, people hit me up and go how do I get myself to like my job that I hate so much more? You can't, bro. You hate that job. Any safe GABA activists more potent than theanine or lemon balm? Agonist, maybe? More potent, less addictive than phenibut, GABA functionality stuff. Yeah, lemon balm would be one of the most high dose lemon balm because it inhibits GABA transaminase, which breaks GABA down. So you've got elevated GABA as a result, but you probably have to take a good bit of lemon balm. In my experience, I'd have to take a lot of lemon balm, Melissa, to get the adequate GABAergic effect. Otherwise, though, you would want to look at taking a compound called picamilin. Post-nut clarity is 15 milligrams a day of test prop too little. Caused my blood work show to skyrocket at test. No, obviously not for you. I run 25. That's just, perfect for me. I though do not, to give you an idea of where my test goes on various TRT doses or various esters, on test SIP at 210 milligrams a week, no HCG, my test only went to 1150. Whereas, other people that and I was injecting every day, right? So that influences that at the time. Whereas people running 200 milligrams of testosterone usually peak at 1500. They might be at 1800. You know what I mean? So my test doesn't go all that high with certain doses. I'm not sure why. So, 15 milligrams prop would probably have me at 790 or something. It's just a guesstimate. Whereas I like being at 1,000 plus and 25 milligrams of prop, takes me to my sweet spot. And it makes managing estradiol a lot easier because it's not constantly sitting around binding to receptors at the tissue level, which is something no one ever talks about. Alpha GPC versus citicoline, which is better for what purpose? I would say, alpha GPC has more choline per material than citicoline. That doesn't mean it's better though, because citicoline also modulates dopamine release and epinephrine or norepinephrine release, right? And then subsequently epinephrine release, obviously. And so it also, citicoline has a 70 something hour half-life, and the absorption in a percentage wise is much higher than alpha GPC. It's 98%. 100% absorption rate is absolute. Citicoline is the only nootropic that is closest to absolute level of absorption. Josh says, saw consultation, 3-month, 6-month package. What do these consultations include when working with you? I'm planning on joining so I can save up to do so. Everything and everything. Anything and everything. It really depends on your situation, right? But the whole point of those is in an email consultation with me, I can give you advice. But in order for us to make significant, long-term, profound change, we need months. We need many months, right? Because we have to run blood work several times. We might have to try things for 2 months at a time, alter the dose 3 times within that 2-month period. There's a lot of adjustments that need to take place when you're trying to get to the bottom of something. And so that is what we do in those longer term packages. I've revived people from really, really shitty states of sexual dysfunction induced by drugs. I've taken people out of anhedonia and sexual dysfunction induced by Adderall. At the same time, we get clients that are performing relatively well, but want to perform as good as they did 15 years ago. So all we're doing is full on optimization for a year straight. And these guys double their revenue in their businesses, or they, get promoted significantly in their job, right? So it's about performance. Look, if you function better, markedly better, and there's a way to function markedly better, you're going to do a lot more in life. You're going to, you'll have a lot more reserve energy to do things. You have a lot more creativity, a lot better working memory, a lot more of that conquer energy. It's just you be in a different world. So that's generally what we do in those consults, whether we're fixing somebody or we're optimizing somebody. Reader wants to try TRT prop daily. Was the right time to do blood to test what level? If you want to test that peak and trough, if you want to do this the right way, and that would be 5 to 6 hours post dosing would be your peak. It's going to be different for different people. So you might even peak at hour 4. Trough would be at within a waking day. You really should run trough the next morning is what I would say. Then you can see, how low testosterone goes and how low estradiol goes as well. Am I going to stay on TRT for life? 100%. Do I anticipate fertility issues? I'm running HCG, so no, I do not. Yeah, I don't. This is maybe TMI, but if I'm with a very fertile woman, I will be very careful. Because, I'm on HCG and I know I'm fertile at this point. But yeah, I'll be on TRT forever, no question. There's just, my natural production started going down at 39. It had gone from 900, which I achieved with a lot of supplements, 25, which was a burden on my liver and whatever. From 900 to 770 it was. I'm like, okay, it's dropping. Like, now's the time. So let's go. Stacks for stock market trading. I would suggest you go to livecortex.com and buy the digital guide called Stack List. It is a collection of the most effective tailored stacks in my client base and on all the hundreds of documents of people's protocols, my clients' protocols, that I synthesize all those effective stacks and put it in a digital downloadable guide. It's called Stack List. You can find it at livecortex.com. All right, boys, I'm going to end the stream. I've got some stuff I've got to tend to right now. I really appreciate the questions. This has been absolutely an epic live stream. I hope you guys are having I hope you had a great week, dude. Life can be good or life can be shitty. I hope you're in a period right now where your life is good and it's not shitty. If it's shitty, keep fucking trucking, brother. Because it happens to the best of us, man. It happens to everybody, dude. I go through shitty phases depending on what happens or what is coming up or what I'm anticipating or what's happening in business, and all kinds of things can affect, my state. But stay strong, do some meditation, do some cardio, go to the gym, work on your hormones, work on your neurotransmitters, work on your goals, guys. Work on, having a purpose in life, work on dating if that's your thing, work on becoming more confident, work on your body, do all that shit. That's what this is about. That's what all this, if there's an underlying thing like about modulating neurochemistry and modulating hormones, it's about making you a better person, man. It's about making you better, making you feel better, making you function better, perform better. Questions were great. Content coming likely tomorrow, if not likely Monday, if not Tuesday. Let's look forward to that. Again, the Vigorous Steve podcast with him and I. It's an hour and 50 minutes or something of just every topic relating to TRT nootropics and everything else. It's on Vigorous Steve's channel. Go check it out. Otherwise, those of you that came from, that podcast, I appreciate the fact that you're here. So much more epic fucking content coming out of here. We break shit down that no one does, man. And I'm glad that you're on the channel now. Everyone else, I hope you have a great day. I hope you're enjoying the spring. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one.